Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the next episode of Vinyl Stallions!
I'm Bruce, and you're listening to Vinyl Stallions.
For
99% of Google users like this album.
and 100% of Stallions.
And here we are diving into our next debut album series. We are on number 3 right now, Klep. We have a great backdrop provided at Klep Studios, and we got the damn thing here. Check it out.
Take a look. And if you can't see, we are talking about the debut album of Linkin Park, Hybrid Theory, which also used to be the band's name just a year before they released this.
Hold on. Tell us more about that. What?
So, Linkin Park from the LA, California area.
LA, California. Write that down, people.
Originally formed in 1996 as Zero, spelled with an X. And at that time, it was just Mike Shinoda, Brad Delson, and Rob Bourdon. So you got, a singer, you got drums, you got guitar. Eventually, they recruit Dave Farrell and Joe Hahn and Mark Wakefield. So they got 6 people in Zero. They, play around LA for a few years. Eventually, Wakefield leaves the band. Farrell goes on to tour with some Christian ska punk band for like a year, comes right back. But they get Chester Bennington to replace Mark Wakefield, and the band totally changes. Because I've listened to all the Zero. They released one little demo tape, just 4 songs, and 2 of them are actually the skeleton to 2 songs on this album. And so they roll in with that same lineup, just with Chester instead of Mark, and they call themselves Hybrid Theory, release a 6-song EP called Hybrid Theory EP, but they're not on a major label yet. And so eventually they strike a deal with Warner, and Warner is very skeptical. They are not sold on the band at all. They basically had a friend call in a favor to get them this record deal. And they wanted Chester to throw Mike out of the band and just kind of do their thing as just a heavy metal band.
For any particular reason?
They just weren't sold on the sound. They had the Hybrid Theory EP to sort of base their rationale off of, and they just weren't sold on it, which I disagree. Those songs are studio ready. Those are just as good as the songs on this album. And one of those songs is the skeleton to one of the songs on this album too. So basically 3 of these songs they have a recorded version of prior to this album, just with different names, different lyrics, but musically it's the skeleton of the song. But anyways, they release this album going against the advice of Warner. Chester tells them, fuck off, Mike's in the band, he's going to be in the band, and we're going to do things our way. And they release what is probably the most popular metal album of all time.
And they not only did it, as you said, through all that progression, but the fact that it was in the year 2000. I don't know why that just hits home. It's a whole goddamn new millennium where they're setting the sound for an entire, at least, decade of music, and also picking up some incredible music from the 90s. And yeah, man, I remember just my cousin Dylan Friedman, who is a previous episode, one of the earlier ones.
Yeah, he's got to be in the teens.
I'm gonna look it up right now because shout out to Dylan Friedman, incredible drummer in the local Cleveland area. It's episode 18.
Right on.
I remember Dylan loved Linkin Park, like just would throw it just constantly on. And so all I would think about when I heard the Linkin Park was my cousin Dylan. And I honestly haven't dove too deep in this band. This was my first album that I've listened all the way through of theirs. And holy shit, is it song after song of, like you just said, incredible music and one of the most popular albums ever.
Yeah, I think I looked it up before we recorded this, but I think it was like it's the 38th. There's something that starts with a 3, highest selling album of all time. But if you're looking like just within the metal genre, I believe it's number 1. I'm trying to think if there was anything else ahead of it that you could consider metal. But even just that decade, the 2000s, the highest selling album of that decade was the Marshall Mathers LP. Then there's a Beatles Greatest Hits album, one other album which I can't recall, and then this is the 4th highest selling album from that decade. And it's kind of crazy to see a band just like hit that level of success from the get-go. Like, I mean, these dudes were in like a matter of 1 year had like a rough EP begging any record label to taking them to like playing arenas like in 12 months. And it's like, what a twist of fate.
Yeah, shit just works out like that sometimes. You never know who's going to be hearing your music and how that's going to change everything. So this is another Vinyl Stallions encouragement to all those wanting to make music. Just fucking do it. And then you press it.
And these boys pressed it. And I don't know if they pressed it in 2000, but they pressed it at some point and we got it. Single discer. Got a little insert and then a pretty standard sleeve. But yeah.
What is a disc? One side was like red, another one was tan on each side.
Oh, yep. Yeah, so let's see.
Yeah, take it out. I want to see it raw.
The A side is the red side.
Ooh,
voila.
Spicy meatball.
And yeah, you got tracks 1 through 6, flip, tracks 7 through 12. Yeah, different colors on the little inner circle there. And
I guess I wouldn't want you to hurt yourself, Klepp, getting the paper cut, putting that back in. Or maybe he should, because, ladies and gentlemen, that is where we're starting today. Paper cut, track number 1. Hybrid 2.
Yeah, and this, man, that's just like one of my favorite Linkin Park songs. And yeah, I don't know. I was telling Spruce this before we started. I've heard this album and these songs so many times. I almost like don't know what to say about any of these songs. Like, I love them all. Like, they all have great verses, all have great choruses. So Spruce, I'll let you take the lead on just like when you heard this, like what did it make you feel?
I mean, I had definitely heard this one beforehand, and I always say it honestly, like you have to be able to set a tone for a record, and I feel like this song kind of incorporates a lot of different aspects of other songs that are about to come into this one.
Mm-hmm.
You've mentioned it, and I mean, everyone obviously knows. So there's 2 voices, there's 2 singers in Linkin Park, which is quite a unique thing to do, and not even to be able to do it with singing, but hell, they're rapping constantly. Like, I honestly got a lot of Rage Against the Machine vibes listening to this.
Yeah, it's a little. I think it's a little different because Rage has one singer. It's just Zach, whereas like they have like one dedicated to like each style, which I do think allows them to like play off each other better because then they can like harmonize. Like, I mean, one person can't sing 2 parts at once. I mean, they can on a studio recording, but live they can't. And I think the use of two just allows them to be more layered. Because even on parts where like Mike's rapping, Chester is still providing like background vocals that just add another layer, even if it's just something like he and like, just like holding a certain note to like just give it a more fuller sound.
Yeah, no, that's what they do with a lot of these songs, honestly, is just use the synths, use just a simple guitar to fill that empty space and just let the drums carry you with the rapping.
And another thing that's super different too is the scratches. Like they have a dedicated guy, Joe Hahn, to turntables, and that's like the only thing he does. And there's not many bands that do that. Like Rage Against the Machine does, Slipknot does, Incubus, Limp Bizkit. Other than that, I really don't know who else does. Korn might in some of their early stuff. I don't think they do anymore.
That's a unique aspect of combining two different worlds, and definitely the stamp on the era of music. And they continue it. So let's go right on down to number 2, One Step Closer.
Yeah. And another thing too is how this album is mastered. Like the end of Paper Cut, the note that they hold at the end of the song like leads right into One Step Closer.
And then something else that is just so evident throughout this whole album is the essence of just like drowning out instruments. And this song right here, One Step Closer, the beginning of that song, just that guitar bass riff going together is just like, completely drowned out, muffled, and then it just breaks out into this complete party music. And that is a theme in this Hybrid Theory album.
Yeah, and I mean that song is just about like pent up frustration. I mean, I'm one step closer to the edge and I'm about to break. And that's sort of like kind of like the whole theme of this album. It definitely talks about just like inner struggles and like how different things in life make you feel different ways.
And I will say it was the lead single off of this album.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to look up is just like what songs were singles, and only 4 of them were. Paper Cut was 2, which not the lead single. But yeah, Paper Cut was a single. I feel like I've heard way more than just 4 of these songs on the radio though.
Absolutely. But we will press forward to one that I had not heard.
With You?
With You.
Yeah.
I don't know how I had heard this. Third track, and it has the Dust Brothers on it, who are a pair of songwriters and producers consisting of Easy Mike, Michael Simpson, and King Gizmo.
Okay. Yeah, and the way that song starts is just like so wacky. They're just like screeching, and then you just like go into this dark and dingy guitar riff, and
it's like walking outside in the summer, but it's just fireflies from hell.
Yeah, and like same thing, like I think this song is like trying to get at having either like a romantic interest or just like desire for a relationship, whether it be like, romantic, friendship, family relationship, whatever, and like the other person doesn't reciprocate, because that's the line, like, even though you're not with me, I'm with you. Like, I think that is kind of the core of what that's getting at.
Well, we will continue to number 4, one of the most famous tracks on this album, Points of Authority.
Yeah, same thing with like Paper Cut and One Step Closer. The last note of With You just kind of rings out, and that's like the first note of Points of Authority. I think this song has got to be like Mike's best rap song, because it goes hard. This is like a song that you like listen to before a sports game if you're an athlete. Like I remember, like when I was in high school or, younger, playing sports competitively, that was like a go-to song where like, all right, 5 minutes before the game starts, just boom, points of authority.
Ooh, that would be a good conversation because I honestly have. I mean, its entire American Idiot album was my go-to, just driving to like football games and stuff. But that's a good conversation to have. Just pump up songs
Yep.
before events and certain events. Like I'm about to walk into a funeral. What am I putting on? I'm thinking "Funeral" by King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard.
Damn. Yeah, I don't even know what I listen to. I guess it depends on who died also.
We'll save that for another one. But another cool aspect just about this band and kind of what brought them relevant to myself, and I'm sure many other people out there, is that mashup album they did with Jay-Z.
Yeah.
And that's honestly where I heard this song first, was with that. And I think it was like 7 songs that they collabed on.
Yeah, I can't remember the exact number, but yeah, it's called Collision Course, and that came out not right after this album, but 2 albums after their second album. Well, they also did, so yeah, that's interesting. So after this album, their second album was like a remix album. It was just these songs like remixed, and it was called Reanimation. And then
like, what?
1 year later, they released a traditional studio album, Meteora, which was also massively popular.
You think Warner was like, listen, kids, you need another album. They're like, oh, yeah? Remix.
Yeah. Well, yeah, because, I mean, Mike is, like, very hip to, like, the, like, producer hip-hop scene, and so, like, there's a ton of people on that album that just, like, come remix and, like, sample the songs, and, yeah, it's a very interesting concept, and they did it one more time later on with Steve Aoki. That was like 10 years later, like I want to say like 2013, something like that, in between Living Things and The Hunting Party. But yeah, Collision Course takes songs from Hybrid Theory and Meteora. And yeah, like the most popular one, Numb Encore, like Numb is off of Meteora. But there is one, yeah, that remixes Points of Authority. There's one that remixes Paper Cut, I believe. I don't know. That's a really good EP too. And yeah, what a coincidence. The last album review we just did was Jay-Z. And now we go into Linkin Park.
And these will be released on the same week. So go listen to episode 98, or else you're going to have 99 problems.
And a stallion will be one.
And you will be crawling into the song, which is number 5 on this record.
Is that one a single?
And it was the second single.
Okay.
And it actually won a Grammy for the best hard rock performance in 2002, and was also released in a DLC pack for Rock Band 3.
Yeah, I do remember that because I bought that song. Yeah, I bought a handful of.
Said, "Gimme, gimme, gimme that song after midnight."
Sure did, and I bought a bunch of the Who songs too, and regretted it shortly after because I was like, I can't play any of these.
Dude, Guitar Hero 3 had some like whack ones to download. Like I remember they had "Human" by The Killers, which I was like, this is like a synth bop song. Like, why am I like trying to play guitar to this? And they also had "Born to Run," and I love The Boss, but I don't know. That's not a song I would want to play on Guitar Hero.
Yeah, and this song is interesting because typically, like the standard format, Mike is rapping during the verses, and Chester is singing the choruses, and like Mike's voice is like pretty, in my opinion, like unemotional, and that's like by design. And like Chester is where you get more of the emotion from the song. And so this makes it interesting because Chester's like, I'm used to him like having a ton of emotion in his voice at all times. And he's like very like unemotional during the verses. Yeah, I feel like this song is got to be about like anxiety or worrying about things that don't necessarily matter. Because I mean, the line like fear is how I fall, confusing what is real. Like that's sort of what I take away from that.
And it will lead us. Is it the last song on the A side?
Yeah.
Number 6, Runaway.
Yeah. Okay. And so I was talking about the Zero demo. It was released on cassette, and yeah, 2 songs on one side of the cassette, 2
What a lost
songs on
art
the
form.
other. Yeah. Yeah, it was the last song on the Zero demo. It was called Stick and Move. And the lyrics completely different than Runaway, but like musically it is Runaway. And it is the skeleton of this song. And it's interesting because a lot of times like Spruce and I talk about how like a song evolves and is never like fully finished, and usually we're talking in the context of jam bands where like it usually has to do with something musically, like where everything is like it's like a certain part where now they prefer to play it this way where they used to play it that way. Whereas this is like kind of like the opposite. The lyrics didn't stay the same and the music was like slightly tinkered with. The music stayed the same and they totally changed like the lyrics, the song structure, and I guess like the production too. It was much better produced. Like 96, I don't think they were using like a super pro studio. Going into like a Warner backed studio is going to be a little different.
And just talk about an intro to a song that's like, dude, it's honestly it just feels like you're in a goo pit. And then immediately that hard hitting guitar comes in again. I wanna run away. I feel like you're in a Linkin Park song is when it just like has like the on and off switch, and you're just like, and then you're just.
Yep. Absolutely.
Something I read that was funny was writer from the Rolling Stone when this first came out referred to like this song as tumbling funk.
Okay.
I just do kind of see like a tumbleweed. Shout out to Dr. Stirp making our Vinyl Stallions dreams come true back here. I imagine a tumbling weed going through there to this song.
Yeah. I can get down with that.
Tumbling funk, bitch. What do you listen to? Tumbling funk.
With a side of tumbling funk. All right. So we do Flip. And yeah, just for the record, produced by Don Gilmore. We'll just say that because I can see it right here. Anyways, we flip and start with By Myself. Talk about prime workout music. Like it just banging right from the beginning. And then yeah, like you like Spruce just said, you have like this big like wailing guitar, and then all of a sudden it just and Mike just hits you with the verse.
It is just electrifying. Like I don't know, workout music is exactly what this is for. If you just are just trying to get pumped in any sort of way.
Yeah, and the this chorus is super interesting. Like the chorus of this song specifically is just like the essence of Linkin Park because Mike is in the chorus, but it's like they're like trading words within the same phrase. Like, because I can't rely on myself, which is Mike, and then Chester comes in, myself, and then Mike's like, I ask why, and then Chester, but in my mind, I'm fine because I can't rely on myself. Back to Mike, myself, and Chester. It's just like back and forth. And it's like you it is not possible to do that unless you have two singers and two singers that have voices that sound differently.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, you know Chester's voice immediately when you hear him singing, and then Mike is obviously coming in hot as well. Damn. Well, that leads us into one of their greatest hits ever.
Yeah. Yeah, like just one of the most popular songs. And I mean, this is a song that got me into the band in the end. I can't remember how old I was. I had to have been like somewhere around like 10 years old. And yeah, I remember I was just watching, it was either MTV or VH1. And I remember that music video came on, and I was like, that's the best song I've ever heard. And immediately when my parents came home from work that day, I was like, can you take me to Best Buy? I need to buy this album. And then was mind blown when I got to Best Buy and they had another album, and I was like, we're getting both.
And that,
So
and it was the fourth single released off this album.
okay. Yeah, interesting. 'Cause yeah, it was the most popular.
And we've talked about so many different instruments, but the simple piano at the beginning of this song is, again, iconic. You know it immediately.
Most of the time, I'd have to look it up, but I would bet it's Mike playing the piano, because most of the time when there's a song with piano, it is Mike playing the piano. Which, yeah, so he can do that. He can do like guitar if it's just rhythm. Chester does not ever play an instrument, so that's also like an interesting dynamic too.
And want to know what an interesting dynamic is as well about this is, so it reached number 2 on like the Billboard Top 200 or whatever, and it's definitely the highest charting song out of any of them. But initially, Chester didn't dislike the song and didn't want it on Hybrid Theory, and many supporting people have just considered this a sleeper hit because initially how the band thought it was going to do. And isn't that a funny concept of like, this is my best song, and then you just completely like like other ones just resonate so much more with other people. It's, I don't know, it's a hilarious aspect of music because you just never fucking know.
Yeah, true. Yeah, and I mean there were some other songs they cut from this album that are really good. I don't know that I would have put them in over any of the 12 they picked. I would have just, the album's only 37 minutes. We could have snuck a few in. But that's neither here nor there. There's always a deluxe edition where you can scoop them up later.
And there's always a place for my head.
Yeah, so okay, this song, Part of Me off of the Hybrid Theory EP, same thing. That is the skeleton to A Place for My Head. They rework it a little bit, new lyrics and everything, but yeah, that is the skeleton to A Place for My Head.
This is the one that surprised me a lot. I really like it. Beat it.
Yeah.
Again, comes in with a fucking battering through your front door.
Yeah, and this song is just about like being exhausted or frustrated, and it's kind of cool because the music allows you to like experience those emotions throughout the song until you just get to the end and there's that like heavy breakdown, and it's like, all right, all the frustration's coming out right now. Yeah. Yeah, no, it's kind of like that sort of feel. I mean, Break Stuff is like very similar to this song in a lot of ways. Like, it's talking, about how this dude's pissed off about everything, and then you have this crazy breakdown where give me something to break.
I'm like a chainsaw. What? I'm skinning your ass raw. What?
Yeah, I mean, this is like the same thing. You try to take the best of me, go away. You try to take the best of me. Yeah. And it just all the frustrations out. I can only imagine like some of the early mosh pits to that song.
They were probably just tossing ropes on their fans.
Yeah.
Really busting nuts on stage.
Oh yeah.
But now we enter the double-digit realm of Hybrid Theory.
It's gotta be Forgotten or Cure for the Itch.
Very good. It
Okay.
is Forgotten. And then number 10.
Yep. And so same thing, Zero, their demo tape. Rhinestone is like the skeleton of this song. And but so of those three songs where like the skeleton already exists, Rhinestone and Forgotten are like the most similar. And I believe there are some lyrics that overlap. Whereas with Runaway and A Place for My Head, I don't think any of the lyrics remain from like the original rendition of the song.
This chorus is straight Tony Hawk Pro Skater music.
Yeah.
The darkness, you'll find me.
Until the sun rises up.
All right, we will continue down the path at number 11. Here for the Itch. And what a fucking song.
Yeah, this is the Joe Hahn show, and it just shows you like what somebody can do with the fucking turntable.
Yeah, like seriously have a party. And honestly, it's just from a common listener standpoint, especially being naive in the technology of today's world, I would have just thought those were 16 drum pads on a little MIDI controller.
Yeah, and the fans love him. Like I went to one Linkin Park show in my life. It was crazy. Thousand Suns tour. I think it was like 2011, maybe 2012. I don't know. But when I can't remember if it was Chester or Mike who introduced the band. And I think historically they took turns. It wasn't like designated to one of them. But whenever they introduce Mr. Hahn, like the crowd erupts more so than like any other band member, basically. So yeah, Hahn gets a ton of love from the fans. Yeah, I wonder if Linkin Park will ever tour again or how they are going to address their future lead singer situation. R.I.P. Chester.
Yeah, I just say you let it be. It's been enough time. But I don't know. Obviously, they want to continue to make music, maybe some way, somehow, or they could have just made that a mark on their life. And
yeah, well, so far they have released new music, but not stuff that they've recorded that's new. So this album, when it had its 20th anniversary, 3 years ago, they released like a 20th anniversary edition that is like 4 hours long that contains like all these demo tapes. It has the Zero demo tape on there. It has the Hybrid Theory EP on there, and just like all this different content, like some live takes of songs that they basically dumped the vault from these recording sessions and everything leading up to it. And they did the same thing with Meteora this year. So that's like kind of what they've been doing, is just like emptying the vault. The band has said that like it was really difficult to do with this album because it was their first like time like reconvening as a band and like sort of like strategizing and like having to fulfill obligations since Chester's death. Meteora, the 20th anniversary, they were like, it was a much more like peaceful experience. Like everyone had kind of reached peace with what had happened. And now there was one song in particular that Chester like really liked, but they ended up cutting from that album. And they were like, it felt good to release this because we knew he wanted it on the album originally.
that is very cool that they were able to do that. And yeah, go get your hands on it, Stampede.
Yeah.
But we will continue and wrap up this incredible debut album in Pushing Me Away, number 12.
Yeah. Another just amazing song. Like,
I mean, the chorus is honestly pretty like this. I don't know. Like, it's so easy to just sing like, "Why I never walked away." Why I play myself this way.
Now I see you testing me, pushes me away.
Like that is incredible to just be able to sing and get down with. This was a great choice of an album, Collab. Again, have not really dove in that deep to Linkin Park. It's just a unique style of music that you know immediately who it is as soon as the guitar or the voices kick in. And I don't know, they just had that big mentality. I never saw them in concert, but I just like always imagine them on just like a huge scale. Kind of like, I guess, Muse comes to mind. Like, I feel like the live performance would just be a big display of it.
Yeah, no, I mean I've seen both bands. I mean, Muse's stage theatrics are like probably a little more elaborate, but just like quality of the show, both are incredible. And I guess one thing Linkin Park did that a lot of bands don't do is like usually you go to an arena concert, like you're pretty dependent on like the arena's PA system because it's really good. And like you have your own PA that's usually at the stage at the front. But Linkin Park, like they did not sell like the upper balcony seats right like across from them. And instead there was just a wall of speakers that they brought in. And I've never seen anything like that in an arena show. Yeah, like if you are looking at the stage, it's like directly behind you. And like the upper deck, they just like had a wall of speakers and didn't sell those seats. Which, I mean, it was a really loud concert, so
it adds up.
Mission accomplished, boys.
Kick ass, man. Shout out to Linkin Park. Let me take a gander real quick. So this is not the first time that Linkin Park has been involved in the Stallions world. If you go back and listen to episode number 65,
Vinyl Roulette 3.0,
you'll hear about our experience listening to the Hunting Party that came out in 2014.
Yeah. Which, that might be their heaviest album. Like this album and Meteora are like pretty heavy, but it's just like kind of in spurts. It's just like some choruses are heavy, whereas like Hunting Party, I feel like has songs that are just like punching you in the face for like the full 3 minutes. There's some softer ones on that album too, though. That album's kind of all over the place. But another song I want to mention that like got cut from that album is My December. It sounds like no other song on the album. It's just piano. I don't know if it actually has any real drums. I bet it is all just Johan like turntable, but it's piano, Chester singing, and turntables. Like there's no mic in it, but it's like a very peaceful, calm, serene song. It would be like a great song to end an album on. Not that Pushing Me Away is a bad song to end an album on. And that's the thing. There's no song I would take off the album to put My December on, but should just mention it.
Shout the frick out again. Linkin Park, Hybrid Theory, their debut album. This is number 3 on the Stallions' debut album series. Stay tuned as we continue down this path. If you have any suggestions, reach out to us, email or DMs, or just a simple comment.
Mm-hmm.
Man. Besides that clip, I'm Spruce.
I'm Clep.
And this has been another episode of
Vinyl Stallions. One thing, the Stallions know why. It doesn't even matter why you're watching this time. Keep that in mind. I designed this rhyme to get us more viewers. Cause all I know, Stallions are coming to your city. We're taking over everything.